Welcome to November 23rd, facility operations. And looks like we are still gathering some people here, joining the group. And wonder how everyone's doing this morning. I know I'm a little bit cold. Holy smokes, wake up and it's suddenly minus 13 outside. That is a little bit sudden, but you know, we knew this was coming, although maybe not so early. I don't know, sometimes for some reason it feels like this snows a little bit early. But I'm wondering if where you live, you got as much snow as we did yesterday. You know, about, I don't know, well, it must be 8 inches of snow. Anyways, it's, you know, shoveling the driveway a few times. But, you know, that's all fun. Kind of makes it feel more like the holiday season is approaching us, which is kind of, I don't know, exciting and stressful at the same time. And, you know, we all did probably celebrate different holidays. I know there is obviously Christmas coming up that we are very familiar with, most of us, but Hanukkah starts on Sunday, which I'm not sure if anyone celebrates Hanukkah. That's coming up in a few more days, I think 5 days or something like that. So that's pretty exciting. And, you know, there's other holidays around the world that are taking place as well, but very interesting. So I'm actually excited about the snow because I just, I probably mentioned to you before, I do mountain biking, but now have a fat bike to get out on the snow, 5-inch wheels. So that should help me ride through the snow when I go out later tonight. And although, let's see what else is happening here. Everyone's joining in. What are we up to here? 11. Not too much. I was wondering, let's see, what are we going to just give you a little overview today? We're going to talk just for a few minutes about assignment 4, not too long. I think some of you may have handed in assignment 4 already, or maybe not. Well, yeah, a few of them. A few are in. I will, once the deadline for assignment 4 passes, which is Friday, 11:59 EST, I will be marking this weekend, so you should see the marks up by, we'll say Sunday night. Depends on when I get around to marking them. Sometimes it's late, sometimes some during Saturday, but usually on a Sunday evening is when I will sit down and do some marking. So let's hope all those can be marked by Sunday night, as well as any of your in-class assignments that have come in the last few weeks. I think there's 1 or 2. And any other assignments that you have handed in that have maybe been, late for whatever reason. So anyone has any outstanding assignments that they've handed in, I'll have those hopefully marked on Sunday as well. But pay attention to your marks on Blackboard, and if you think there's something missing, a mark missing for an assignment, then please question me, because it is possible that I have missed it, and or maybe your name wasn't on one of the in-class assignments. I know that's happened to a few of you over the beginning of the semester. So just want to make sure you get all the marks that you deserve. Excellent. So in-class assignment 7, let's see, what was 7? It's possible, let's just look on Blackboard for a moment. I really didn't let's see. Just want to know what the topic was. No, you have not received the marks for numbers in class assignment 7 yet. Okay, I've done 1 to 6, 7 has not been done. All right. So that is correct. Correct. Okay, so just with our assignment 4 with the resumes, the job posting, the questions. Does anyone have any questions about assignment 4? The interviewing a fitness center coordinator.
I do.
Okay, Jack, do you want to ask now?
Yeah, sure. So one of the last questions on the chart, it says if they have a valid G license, and all the resumes, they don't say that.
Oh, okay. Good question, Jack. So in that case, because they don't state it in the resume, then you can't give them the marks. All right, so they might, and they probably do, but because it's not stated in the resume, you can't give them any marks for that. All right, so possibly if they get the interview, or if you select them for an interview, you could find that out in the interview. But for the the screening or the short, the short listing, then you can't give them those marks. Okay. So if you do give them marks for G license, then that would be incorrect. Anyone else have any questions about assignment 4? Okay. All right, well, let's go. So also assignment 5, last week I mentioned that you will need to send me the person you are going to partner with, or if you're not partnering with anyone on assignment 5, just tell me that you are doing it on your own. All right, so I do need to find out that information. And I don't know if anyone, I think only one person has sent me their partner. So I'm hoping that maybe this will be a reminder. I guess I should send out an announcement. I'll make that as a note to send out an announcement about getting a partner for assignment 5. Okay. Now you can do it on your own, which I did mention before, but having a partner would be cutting your work in half. Okay, so assignment 4, assignment 5. All right. So today, as far as content, we are only going to, we're not only, but we're going to do chapter 15, which is, I don't have the right title there. Chapter 15, I believe, is emergency responses. Yes, emergencies and emergency responses. All right. And that's the only chapter we're going to do today. So there's a good chance that our class will not be 2 hours and 50 minutes like I have been doing for the last many weeks. It'll probably be a fair bit shorter today. Okay, good. And I'm working from home today, so I don't have an extra screen to display the PowerPoint differently. So this PowerPoint is available on Blackboard to follow along. And thank you for the message, Brendan. Okay, so we follow along here, and we're going to talk about emergencies and emergency responses. Can everyone see? Give me a thumbs up if you are able to see my slides. That would be good. So I know I've had a few times. Thank you, Morgan, for being so quick on that. I appreciate it. Now, we're going to talk about emergency and emergency responses at sporting events and in facilities. So, this is something that, does happen at different sort of levels at different facilities. So I guess if it's the amount of people attending the game or attending the facility, which could cause sort of the degree of intensity or the damage, the injuries that do take place, and the responses. But let's go to some slides and we'll talk about this. One of the unfortunate aspects of facility management is that things do not always go as planned. So in spite of the best precautionary measures and control practices, disruptions still occur. And it is your responsibility as a manager, as a staff person, to anticipate these disruptions, accept the responsibility for every situation, be prepared to respond in an organized fashion. So possibly, you have seen or been in facilities where you can see that there might be some sort of disruption taking place. It could be at a sporting event, it could be at a concert, different things like that. Different situations take place. Sporting events, a lot of sporting events now do serve alcohol, so alcohol definitely increases the possibility of disruptions happening. But when we look at the degrees of disruption, what I'm talking about is that the disruption can happen in different facilities at different degrees, depending on a few different variables. So the minor disruptions could include concerns as, just toilets overflowing, lights not working, negative user behavior, equipment malfunctioning, comfort systems. Okay, comfort systems, so it could be the HVAC not working, breaking down, weather problems, crowd control. So when we look at different things like this, that comfort system such as HVAC, if you're at maybe there's not enough heat or there's not enough air conditioning, which cause the temperature to go either condition. Weather problems, there could be natural problems like, could be the threat of a tornado in the area, severe thunderstorms if you're outside. And if you're inside, when these sort of things happen, you get a lot of power disruptions. Power could be cut, power outage, that sort of thing. And so one reality of rec facilities, facility management, is that unexpected disruptions can also be severe and examples of major disruptions are severe weather, can be severe, equipment breakdowns that stop product delivery, negative user behavior, crowd panic, severe health problems such as heart attack, strokes, or accidents leading to bodily injury. And I think there was just a concert a few weeks ago in the States that some people died because of a crowd either panicking or pushing forward, and the people at the front getting killed, which was very unfortunate. And let me just see what I have here. Okay. All right, so unfortunately, not every extreme situation can be completely anticipated. Many of them can't be. If they would be anticipated, they probably would be avoided. And some can result in life-threatening situations. The worst-case scenario for recreation facility managers that can end in death or a person or a group due to an extreme condition such as fire, tornado, hurricane, earthquake, flood, violence, or crowd panic, and catalysts of disruption. So situations develop that cause disruptions, and these disruptions have unique characteristics in various parts of the world. Certain regions may be more susceptible to earthquakes, floods, mudslides, rock slides, avalanches, tornadoes, or other natural disasters. Now, this is very fresh in our memories now that the mudslides and floods that are taking place in BC, and what we have as well is I think they're expecting more rain in the next few days. That will only make things worse. But you know that we didn't see. We saw some people that were injured there. That wasn't obviously a facility that it happened in, but it was definitely something that happened. It could have been sports taking place at the time. But we also have this example of earthquake, which I'm going to just share this with you right now. This is, it's a bit old, but this doesn't happen all the time. And this is the 1989 San Francisco earthquake that took place during the World Series game. So the I guess the telecast, the quality is not the greatest. You have to think 89 is, quite a few years ago, 32 years ago, I guess. And, they certainly didn't have HD TV or whatever level of clarity. So I'll just play this one and we'll listen for a few minutes and we'll see what happens here. I might jump forward a few times, but let me play this.
Dave Parker barely by inches just misses a home run. Candy Maldonado with the hesitation, allowing Jose Canseco to score, and he fails to get Dave Parker at second base. So the Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having a hurry.
So this was live. I was probably watching this when this happened because I was just a teenager at the time. So, this sort of disruption, you think, what's happening in the crowd?
Well, I don't know if we're on the air. We are in commercial, I guess. Yes, we hear you. I don't hear a thing. I guess Dave Parker.
So that event caused, well, they couldn't use the facility any longer. They did move to a different park because of I believe, the instability of the stadium. They just didn't know if it was safe to continue or not. I guess they knew it wasn't safe. But, what would you do as a staff person in that facility at that time? Like, what kind of measures would you take to, control the environment? Would you start evacuating people? I'm hoping that in this part of the world, or that part of the world, they would have some sort of emergency procedure to, keep people safe during that type of event. So it sounds like the fans are pretty, I guess, pretty shooken up. There's a lot of noise taking place, and I'm guessing that they eventually, they didn't restart the game, but they had to evacuate people and move on from there and reschedule games at different areas. But that's, a pretty severe weather or natural type of disaster that happened that affected a sports game, right? And let's go. Oh, let me just make sure I'm sharing the right screen here. Sorry. There we go. So the nature of the product may also affect the planned response to a potential disruption. Each facility, its location, and its type of product must be evaluated in order to plan for potential disruptions. And the disruption catalyst could be the product itself, maintenance, weather, fire, threats, crowd behavior, or combination of the two, or two more catalysts. So it could be, excuse me, it could be at this point, maybe there would be people trying to rush for the exits and cause people to get, injured along the way. So there's been a few situations that let me just see, product or service. So the very nature of the product may create disruptions. Some examples are mechanical breakdowns such as lighting failures, spectator misbehavior, and equipment malfunctions. Now, this is a game that I was at. It was when the Blue Jays, I think in 2015 or I think it was 2015, it was the wild card game that they played in. Pretty spectacular wild card game. And at the game, a fan threw a can of beer onto the field, and actually, I think it was 2016, actually hit one of the outfielders. So I was sitting over on the first base line around that area and looking straight out to left field, and I could see that something was going on. It was like, this was a packed stadium, you have to imagine. And something happened out in the outfield. The players came off the field, and the crowd, or that person, they were able to identify that person through different cameras and that sort of thing. But what that happened from that point, or I don't know if they're still doing it, but they don't serve the beers in tall boy cans anymore. They pour them into plastic glasses. And I don't know if they're still doing that. Haven't been to a Blue Jay game in a few years, but for a few years after that, that caused a bit of a change in the way they serve that product, which was, could be an injury to the player. I don't think anyone wants to get hit with a can on your body, whatever, shoulder, head, back, whatever. So that was definitely an important. And that one thing caused, the change of all the beer products to be poured into plastic cups. And so what do we have for maintenance? So maintenance functions not performing as in a timely and efficient manner can disrupt facility operations. Examples of disruptions are unfinished facility repairs, non-functioning equipment that needs to be fixed or replaced, setup that has not been completed in a timely fashion, and sidewalks not cleared of snow. Well, we might see some sidewalks not cleared of snow today. But back to that example of the Blue Jays game. Does anyone else have any examples of sort of crowd disruptions to a game, or any unique situations that you may have felt threatened or that things are getting out of hand? They don't have any examples that they can share?
The Ty Domi incident.
Is this which one was this, Morgan?
The one in the penalty box.
With the water bottle?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was excellent example, Morgan. I don't know if that wouldn't have been in Toronto. It would have been a different arena for sure. I'm trying to remember, it wasn't Philadelphia, was it? I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, so that was where Ty Domi was in, a Toronto Maple Leaf player, was in a penalty box, and the crowd was quite angry at him, and the one person in the crowd was smashing on the glass, hitting on the glass, but then the glass collapsed into the penalty box, and it was, I think what I remember is Ty Domi grabbed the water bottle. I don't think he ever hit him, but that was definitely the crowd misbehaving. Somebody should have prevented that from happening. Like, I don't know if the ushers, security that are working in the arena, but they were probably just saying, oh yeah, they probably didn't like Ty Domi just as much as the fan that was watching that game. Jack, thanks for putting that year up there, 2016. Thank you. Yeah.
It was the Flyers.
It was the Flyers. Okay. Yeah, Flyers. Because they have such a history of the Flyers fans of being such a misbehaving group. But that's a good example. Thanks, Morgan. Does anyone else have any other examples they can remember or like to share? Alice at the Palace. No. Is that what sport would that be, Brandon? I'm not sure if is that hockey or is that
was basketball.
Basketball. Is
Yeah.
that the one that just happened?
No, this happened quite a few years ago, but it was a pretty bad fight between the fans and the players.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, I don't know a lot of about basketball, but I did look up a few. And it seems that, like, because they don't happen too often, they do kind of give them the names like the Malice and the Palace or that sort of thing. But I'm just going to move on just a little bit here, and we'll get back to this for crowd behavior. But since 9/11, so September 11th, 2001, the term terrorist threat has become increasingly common, and this type of disruption can occur with or without warning. It could lead to the evacuation of a facility. The greatest challenge to recreation facility managers in this case is making the judgment to accept terrorist threats as reality. So if there are threats, do you believe them, or is it just sort of, we don't have to believe them? But probably a good, to be on the safe side here. And if there's a threat, then, take it seriously. Now, as we're talking about crowd behavior, and so anytime the core product draws a large number of people in one place, the potential for crowd-related incidents becomes a concern for recreation facility managers. Recreation facility managers should be prepared to make efficient decisions to ensure safety when crowds begin to get out of control or participate in disruptive activities. So we have a few examples here. I don't have the basketball example, but I want to share. This is probably, many of you should remember this one. This is 2011, I believe. Let me just get it started up. 1 second as I get through the commercials, the ads. Now, back in 2011, Vancouver Canucks were in the finals with the Boston Bruins. And, well, the Vancouver fans, all, Canadian fans, all pleasant and happy and that sort of thing, weren't really happy after losing Game 7 in Vancouver to the Boston Bruins, who won their first cup in, I think it was 39 years. So I'm just going to play this one. I don't know how long it is. It's just 2 minutes or so. All right, let's see what happened here in Vancouver. The Vancouver riots.
A wild night turned into a very dangerous situation in that city, and our Josh Elliott has been tracking all of this. Overnight nasty.
Yeah, as we can see, I mean, it was a terrifying scene there in Vancouver. Angry fans obviously pouring out into the streets. Emotion heightened as 4 stabbings in its result were reported. The scene so chaotic and violent, ambulances actually couldn't get through to help those injured. Vancouver transformed into a war zone. Fires erupted in busy downtown intersections. Flames shot 30 feet into the air. Storefronts smashed by looters grabbing everything in sight as people dangled from light poles, while police in full force struggled to contain the crowd with tear gas. 2 of their cruisers set ablaze. The city's mayor described the participants as hooligans. The reason for all of this chaos? A hockey game lost by the hometown Canucks to the visiting Boston Bruins.
For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
It was the 7th and last game of hockey's Stanley Cup Finals, a winner-take-all end to what had been a brutal series. And that intensity, exacerbated first by last night's loss, and the riotous result, left the city broken and burning.
This is wrong for the city. This isn't the reputation we want. This is not what the people want. This is wrong. I'm embarrassed.
We have reports of more than 100 people that have been treated for exposure to tear gas, and police aren't saying just how many people they have arrested. Of course, if you remember, Vancouver erupted in similar riots in 1994, the last time the team, Robin, lost Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final.
It's so tough to lose at home like that. No excuse, and unfortunately, the ugly side.
So, an example of, fans, coming out of a game and, seeing that, that's just, it's incredible. So you think of a game taking place in, probably close to 20,000 people in the arena, and then after the game, pouring out onto the streets, and having this sort of thing happen, 10 years ago now. But thanks, Morgan, for the Netflix made a documentary about it. I'll have to watch that for the Malice at the Palace. Thanks for putting up the link. That's awesome. Thank you. Now, some of the others is, it's not always just the fans and the crowds, but I'm going to show this other one. And, it's not just, it's actually, I would think, kind of strange that it's actually, Canadian fans doing this. But here's another example that I'd like to show you that's even a bit more, I don't know, maybe on the same level or maybe more serious. It's about soccer. Now, soccer does have a lot of history, not North American soccer, but Europe, Eastern Europe soccer games having violence take place. There's been many times that, soccer games, or not many times, but there has been times where soccer games had to be viewed with no spectators. Here we go here. This is a soccer game that took place, and I think it's in Egypt, but here, I'll play this. Nope.
And we got to see that side of soccer today. A huge, vicious riot in Egypt. It was a scene of utter chaos at this soccer match in the city of Port Said. 73 people are dead, at least 1,000 injured. Staggering numbers, no ordinary soccer riot, because Egypt is no ordinary country. Nella Ayed will have more on that in just a moment, but we start with David Common with more on what happened.
As the home team fans rushed the field, the panic from players was visible. But what the cameras don't show are the stones hurled at opposing fans' heads, killing dozens instantly. Others died as they were trampled, suffocated by the marauding crowd.
All of them young, like 15 to 20 years old. This is like something, we don't like football to make something like this. And most of the people that mention, it's like football will make like 50 people die. No, we don't need football again.
Far more died. The critically injured may still, as crowds gathered outside the hospital. In Cairo, a different match was halted after news of the violence in Port Said, prompting fans to set fire to parts of the stadium. Violence in Egyptian soccer is hardly unknown. But the early blame for tonight's horror is landing on ultras, a virulent type of superfan. Tonight, they used fireworks and flares. Some even came to the match with knives, raising the question of premeditation. Public safety has taken a beating in Egypt in the 12 months since Hosni Mubarak was ousted as president. And tonight, the police, outnumbered and overwhelmed, either couldn't or wouldn't intervene. The government announced mass arrests and said those responsible would be found. But in the highs and lows Egypt has witnessed over the past year, tonight goes down as...
So I'm just wondering, what would you, how could you handle this sort of situation as working in a facility? Like, what would, other than honestly looking after your own safety in this situation, what other sort of things do you think should be in place? Like, do you think this could ever happen in, well, we saw it happen in Vancouver, but do you think it could happen in a stadium in Ontario? Do you think that's possible, that this type of riot would happen in Ontario in a facility? Oriana, yes, you think so? It could happen. It could happen for sure. Yeah. Do you think maybe it might not be quite as likely, or do you think it could just, I think if you ever been to an FC game, they do have that atmosphere of, they release like smoke, again, what's called smoke bombs or that sort of thing. A lot of chanting and singing, and people do definitely get worked up. I haven't seen a lot of violence at FC games, but what do you think in North America that we maybe do that might help prevent this, or not as happen as likely as happen, or happen as likely as it happening in Egypt? What do you think we would do in North America to make this less likely to happen? Yeah, Oriana, that's a good point. That's what I was thinking. Hire more security is definitely something. Police limit crowd numbers. Yeah, I think Oriana's onto something where we mentioned the metal detectors and bag checks. So, it's that access control that would prevent people from bringing in knives or rockets or whatever these people were using in Egypt. But it almost seems that there was no such type of access control there. It just seemed like I have no idea if they just show a ticket and they get in, and it's just or you just show up and go in. But having more security would be also important, and that's a good way to look at, at the entrances. Limit crowd numbers definitely would be a way to control it a bit. Like, you just don't pack them into every possible seat that's available. And security and police, I think, are similar as what you have there, Hilmi. But those are good points about different things that have happened. But then there's also, at this one in Egypt, we kind of saw that, it was the players were actually, running for their lives, trying to get off the field. It's a bit different. When you go to when I've gone to a Blue Jays game, there's security around the perimeter of the field, on the field, every, 50 feet or so, that and looking up into the crowd to watch for any disruptions or anyone trying to get on the field. So in baseball, it might be a bit easier. Just hop over. There's a fence. You could easily get on the field, and there has been instances where people get on the field, and we've all seen those videos of fans running across the field and getting tackled by a security guard. But we've also seen, people on ice arenas, which doesn't happen nearly as often, but people have been on the ice arena or on a ice surface. Now there is another happening that happened in Boston, and it almost seems like every sport has examples of crowd misbehaving or getting in fights or that sort of thing. And this one here is probably a more famous Boston and New York situation. And I think this was in New York. But let's see what happened here. I'm going to start this up. Boston and New York Rangers playing. And here we see that the players actually got involved in this situation. Oh, hold on. Oh, I think I forgot to share the sound. Hold on.
But instead of going to the dressing room, they're milling around. The dressing room is Phil Esposito. After Bork had it, went for the empty net, blocked by Greshner. Somehow they fed Esposito from the blue line in, all alone, and Cheevers, what a stop.
He made a tremendous stop. Esposito took a step.
So you have to think this was back in a day when, the NHL maybe wasn't as cleaned up as it was or is now, and we don't see as many fights now. They've definitely decreased.
Fans are now getting involved.
So you can see that the fans got involved in this. They could have been yelling things, throwing things at the players, and this is where we actually see the players going into the stands. So there is some sort of graphic fighting that takes place here. So I just want to warn you about that.
As O'Reilly is out into the stands, and this is going to...
So these are players that are actually have their skates on, going up into the stands and fighting with the fans. Like, this should not happen. I guess you could say this should not happen.
Something. O'Reilly's into the stands fighting with a Ranger fan, and all the Bruins are going over, and Gilbert is in there, Peter McNabb. They're all into the stands.
You can just see that they're, going right up in the stands. I don't know what these fans did. Maybe some of you may have more information on this than I do, but a pretty bad mark on the NHL at this point when this happened. I think it was in this, what year was it? Does it have the year on this? I'm not going to show the rest of it, but it was in 79. So it was at Madison Square Gardens, and who knows what was I guess there might be a documentary on this one too, I'm not sure, but definitely a problem with the fans and the players. So what do you think, I guess when we're looking at, I guess it's just another example that we're talking about, but I don't, the Ty Domi incident was sort of the fans and the player getting into it together, although Ty Domi never, I guess, took it this far. I have a feeling he might have been hitting the fan, but here it's, these guys were right up in the stands. Crazy that this happened. Has anyone ever been to any sort of concert or anything like that you've seen this sort of activity and just take place, either in the stands or in the fans? I'm just curious about, how you felt at that time, and did you feel safe, and was there security around? And and these pictures are showing you from Boston, and you don't see a lot of security at all in the picture. There might be there were some people trying to pull people off and protect people, but I haven't seen a lot there. But has there ever been a time you haven't felt safe at a sporting event? And what do you think that should have been done to make you feel safe? And have you been to an event? That's what I'm asking. Okay, so Oriana had been to a concert, had security, but they did nothing about the mosh pit. So, I guess if you go to, a concert, or sometimes they tell you that, mosh pits are not allowed, but how do you stop them? I guess, I haven't been to a concert that's happened, but Oriana, did you feel safe at the time, or were you near that activity, or were you sort of looking at it from a distance? Does anyone else have any other examples? We have 4 and switches. Okay, so you switched to stadium seats. Okay, well, that's good. I guess you tried to distance yourself from the activity. I attended a derby game in Turkey. Hilmi, what's a derby game? I guess you're just putting up a YouTube video here. Let's see. Maybe I can see what this is. Okay, I'll share this one that Hilmi put up. So this is, well, is it in German? Because I guess I'm not exactly sure. Maybe the description that you provided was, okay, here's a video after the game. So derby game is rivals playing each other in the same city. Okay, so what's happened here? Again, looks like they're rolling garbage containers down the street or something like that, and I guess those large white vehicles are armored vehicles because they're spraying water. Yeah, the police vehicles. It's like that car's been lit on fire. Just sort of going ahead on this. Yeah, you don't even feel safe as a police officer in this situation, do you? Okay. So I think we get the picture there of what's going on. It was totally chaotic. The police didn't separate innocent people, so I also received some gas. So you were at the game. Okay, it was totally chaotic. Okay, as we lost the championship. Oh, well, that's too bad. You know, that's definitely happens when people get upset about their team losing. And if there's enough people, then it's really difficult unless you have some riot police that are going to come in and help you, save you from the situation and keep you safe. Very, I guess, you know, I guess what we're seeing is that there are numerous examples of this happening. And how do you, you know, and I think we've talked a little bit about it and had a few suggestions of how we, you know, keep people safe, you know, by you know, the metal detectors and bag checks and hire more security. I guess it's when it gets out into the streets, it's a different sort of idea. That's sort of, I guess, policing and urban policing and riot control. A little bit different than in the stadium. If the Egypt example, there's definitely stuff happening in the stadium. So severe situations, and you know, I guess let's look at some of the other information that I have on this type of behavior. So certain people come to the facility with disruptive attitudes and behaviors. There are full documentaries on, you know, the hooliganism in Europe, where the fans from two, I guess you could loosely call them two different fans. The fans from each side are attending games, and they'll actually go to the game with the whole idea of fighting with the other fans. So, you know, cheering for their team is part of it, but they travel with the intention of, like, we're going to disrupt stuff. They have to walk down separate sides of the road, different sides of the road, with, you know, police on horses down the middle to keep them separate on the way in. So they have tried to, I guess, offset it by adding in extra security and police. And I know we are past our break time. Maybe I should stop right here for a minute, and because I don't like to keep going for hours and hours. So it is 8:53. I'll pick up right here at 9:03. So we'll take a break till 9:03. Okay, and then I will be right back, and I'll see you at 9:03. Alrighty. Okay, I am back. Hopefully you're back as well. It's 9:04 on my clock, and we will continue with the emergencies, emergency responses. And what am I sharing here? Let me share the right screens. Okay. So lots of examples of crowd behavior, player behavior that has been disruptive in games. I just sort of finished up by mentioning the hooliganism in Europe at soccer matches that take place. So these hooligans do attend the facility, the matches, just to disrupt with these bad attitudes and behavior. So drugs, alcohol, and event passion can influence their behavior, or they can have psychological disorders that affect their behavior. So psychological, I don't know how they have evaluated that, but there has been many documentaries on hooliganism. So as we look at emergency responses, so rec facility managers or yourself working in a rec facility there should be a system in place for responding to whatever disruptions occur. And emergency responses vary greatly and are dictated by the type of facility, the catalyst, and the product that is being delivered. And rec managers must provide leadership and take action in handling disruptions, requesting support from law enforcement and medical personnel as judged appropriate, and facilitating steps to evacuation if needed. Now we see, this is something, so, it's important that you're aware of the disruptions that can take place, to not desensitize yourself to these type of disruptions, but to understand what is needed to be done when this happens. One of the examples I have on a sort of a smaller scale is, my kids all played hockey as they grew up. Hockey parents are, parents at sports events can be disruptive. I've been mostly exposed to hockey, so I guess that's why I have more examples about hockey. And, I've seen it where a parent does not like a call that the referee has made, and in an arena with, let's say, 30 people in it, parents watching, that sort of thing, and then a parent gets upset. Maybe they feel the referee should have called a penalty on their child, where the parent, being so disruptive and loud and obnoxious that they cannot actually start the game. So the referees are on the ice and they can hear exactly what this person is saying because they're so close to the ice surface. So the referees at this point, what do? Well, what I've seen is that they will not start the game until that fan has been removed from the facility, or from the facility, from the area of the building. Now, this has happened where the fan will not leave. So what happens? The referees are not going to go get them. So what happens here is that the facility staff will come into the area and assist the on-ice officials. Now, this doesn't work because, again, these staff that are working are only another person or three other people. The next step, what do you think the next step would be if the facility staff can't get a disruptive fan out of an arena? Now, okay, Oriana, I'm not sure if you just wrote that now, but parents should be in a separate room watching on a TV screen. Those parents should be, for sure. And if you just wrote police, because I was trying to watch the chat, but yes, the police would be the next step. And you can see that all the other fans in the arena, or wherever they're watching this game, will not be too happy with this parent. Because they came to watch a game. Most fans, most of the time are pretty respectful. There's the odd one that this happens, but unfortunately I've seen that odd one. And yes, police would be the next, or if there's security in the building, sometimes buildings do have security. Even for, situations where about entering a Georgian college building during the pandemic. So you have to do your COVID screening, you have to wear a mask, you have to follow the guidelines that Georgian has to get in the building. Well, there's been multiple times that people, and I'm just telling you what I've seen, and I'm not telling you what I believe in or anything like that, but it's, people come in and will show disrespect to any of the rules and try to enter in a facility without, following the rules, if it's wearing a mask or filling out a screening. So at that point, there is security on all the different buildings, and because the screeners are not there to take it to that level, the screeners are backed up by having security on campus, and if a person doesn't want to follow or respect the rules, then security will step in. So that is sort of the next step up of people entering a facility that or misbehaving in a facility that are not following the rules. So emergency response is important. I've also been to a game where a person was having a heart attack in the stands, sorry, and they what happened, and this is at actually a Georgian college varsity game, so not a ton of fans there, could have been 30 or 40 people, or I can't remember exactly how many people were there, but what do you do at this point? You're so close to the playing surface. Does the game stop? Does the game continue? Now, in this situation, and I would think in most situations, if there's a medical emergency, then usually you'll see that a game will stop, like a game like that. And that's what happened in this case. That you have to make a way for EMS to come in if they have a stretcher or that sort of thing, where they're putting a person on. Like, how can you actually want or have the players play while this is happening? So there was a break in the game, and everyone was safe, but things like that may have to happen as well. So as a facility staff, you have to make these calls, and if you call EMS, so who makes that call to 911? Is it has it been made? Is the facility staff's responsibility? Is it a person from the crowd that's made the call to 911? Who is, and how does, what is the process? So at the Georgian gym is that, once that call was made to EMS, then, you have to actually give them the exact location. So if you say, oh, I'm at Georgian College, well, whereabouts are you? What building are you in? How do you get there? And, what entrances? There's got to be, I don't even know, 20, 30, 40 different entrances on campus that you can get into into different buildings. So what we would do is relay the message to security on campus, and then security would meet the ambulance at the parking lot area and then guide them in through the doors to the area that the person needs medical assistance. So you have to have some sort of process set up where you're guiding the EMS. You don't want them going to a different or wrong entrance. Oh, you can't get a stretcher through here. It's quicker, slower to go that way. Like, every minute does count. Every second counts when a person is in having a medical emergency. So just keep that in mind, that, when you work in a facility, if it's a fitness center, wherever it is, whatever your job is, you should always have emergency responses in place and emergency procedures in place. Like, this always seems like, oh, it's never going to happen to me, but I will guarantee you, sooner or later, it will happen to you when you're working. And it is important that you're trained and that you have the knowledge of that facility. So if you go in and, on your first few days on the job, it's like, hopefully you've been trained on emergency responses, emergency procedures. And if you haven't, it's your responsibility to ask your manager about, what to do in certain situations, because, all first thing that, one thing that happens is a customer, has a medical emergency and you're working with them, or if it's at a sports event and, someone gets injured, what happens? How does that, and you're responsible. If you're a staff working there, maybe somebody isn't watching the game and gets hit in the head with a basketball, or, that sort of thing, like whatever the sport is, but, things could happen, or if it's, injuries happen in all sorts of different areas, and it's hard to predict them, and that's why you have to be ready for these. That's why they're called emergency responses. So let's talk about leadership here. Managers must demonstrate leadership and make the appropriate judgments for actions. So this is when you're in this situation, you need to be ready to make appropriate judgments. You can't just, call someone in to make the decision. Everyone that's working needs to know and working with the same process, procedures, policies. Recreation managers must take the appropriate decision, anticipate potential disruptions, and have proper procedures in place for dealing with these situations. So one of the other things I used to do when I was younger, I used to run camping trips, canoe trips for Georgian College. So I worked in the athletic department, and each fall in September, we take a group of students to Algonquin Park or another park, and it would be on a 2-night, 3-day trip. Now, those are a whole other situation where you're working with emergency responses and emergency preparedness. Or what do you do if you're, a day and a half away from any, like by canoe, any emergency response? So how do you, get people to safety? What happens? What do you think? What would you do in that situation if someone is on a canoe trip with you, and how do you get people to emergency treatment? Like, that is a valid question. What would anyone here think? What should you do? What should you be prepared for when you go on a sort of a somewhere where there isn't emergency response or emergency and medical help available? Any ideas from the crowd here? Because when I was on these canoe trips, I did have some injuries that took place. You can just imagine, people were, but there have been other, situations not happened to me, but first thing is that your trip leaders should be trained appropriately with first aid. So I had what we called wilderness first aid. It was a bit longer than a 1-day course. It was a full week course. So you get trained in situations about, lightning strikes and drownings and things like that you may not deal with so much in regular first aid, but things about a lot of it was respond or helping people get them to safety. So minimize the damage that they have, stabilize them, and get them to safety. So if someone did break a leg or an arm, you're not going to continue on your trip, right? What you would do is, treat the injury the way it is, stabilize it. And the way that we prepared it is that you always think that, getting to where you are along the trip maybe took a day and a half or 2 days, but that was with a group of 20 or 30 people with backpacks and slow people and that sort of thing, carrying canoes. So what you would do is take your, 2 of your stronger canoe paddlers with the injured person, with any supplies they need, and take them to emergency or medical help. So that's where, it still might take 4 or 5 hours, but it would be a lot or take the people you need to transport someone. So that never really happened where I had to take a broken leg or a broken arm out, but it could happen, and you should be prepared for that. So we were prepared, and that we had definitely had that information ready, and that process ready if anything did happen. We had sprained ankles and that sort of thing. When you're canoeing, it's not that bad to have a sprained ankle because you're not only walking during your portages. What do we have here? Okay, supervision. So often responsibilities for reacting to emergencies are delegated to qualified employees. It's true. The delegation process authorized the appropriate person to represent and take appropriate action on behalf of management as necessary. In this situation where the soccer riots or Vancouver riots, I think one of the main things is to look after yourself. You're not, unless you're police or that type of person, if you want to make sure that you're safe and help the people around you that are with you. The delegation process authorizes the appropriate person to represent and take appropriate action on behalf of management as necessary. So if you're in a facility and someone has a medical situation happening, heart attack, stroke, and you're working there, it's your responsibility to help them and be prepared to help them. So many athletic facilities now, almost all, have one thing in it that we know that there's in it. What can you tell me that each sports facility has in it that would help a person with a medical situation, or could help a person in a medical situation? Can anyone tell me what that machine, that device would be? Someone's got to know what type of device is in most athletic facilities. Thank you, Morgan. I can always depend on you, Morgan, to give me the answers that I'm looking for. A defib, AED. Now you can go, actually many outdoor facilities as well. Parks, tennis court areas, even areas that are where groups gather. So I know where I live, there's a store nearby, and they have a defibrillator at the store area because it's sort of a crossroads in the town I live in. The park down the road has an AED in it. So I guess what happens here is that where it's more likely for a person to have a heart attack is at a sporting event when they're participating, other than walking. But you also see them in shopping centers and malls, where more seniors gather, that sort of thing. Police carry them in their vehicles. Every police car, I believe, has one. Also, they are actually affordable now. You may actually know some people, family members, that actually have AEDs in their home. And this, if a person is maybe more susceptible to a heart attack, or they're elderly, I know that this is more common now, that people are carrying them in their home or in their vehicles. So I'm not sure if anyone knows anyone like that, but that is definitely something that is a device that people start carrying. So most, when you're working in an athletic facility or in a rec facility, that you should have your first aid, CPR, AED training, standard first aid, and the use of portable defibrillators. Now, is anyone here, do you all have to have first aid or training to graduate from this program? Is that a requirement? Yes, thanks, Jack. Yes. So you may have already noticed that AEDs or defibrillators are almost without training. You can probably operate one. They're pretty good. They walk you right through the process. It speaks to you. It's I've taken AED training many times and know that the machines are foolproof, we could say. There could be a few things that you might not get right, but you could definitely use them without training if you had to. So with supervision, this lifeguard is supervising the people in the pool. A lot of responsibilities on a lifeguard They are, when you're in a pool, you're more susceptible to injury. You can drown under that water. So warnings. Recreation managers must notify users or employees when they discover a part of the production process that can lead to injury. So if there's something that you notice, that is could cause injury. So that's why there's, information at pools. When you go to a pool, it says, there no running on the deck, or that sort of thing. They don't, lifeguards stop you from holding people under the water and whatever, those sort of things. And they can't do that sort of thing if it could cause injury. Managers should provide advance warning that they should be displayed and accurately worded so that users and employees are fully aware of potential injury. If you ever go to a sports game as a spectator, like a NBA, NHL game, whatever, when you buy your tickets, there will be a warning in there somewhere that says, attending a sporting event, there is a risk of injury as a fan. Could be a Barrie Colts game, could be a puck that comes into the stands, it could whatever. There is that. They always put the warning on those tickets. So next time you buy a ticket for a sporting event, or I'm sure a concert has them as well, I'm almost 100% sure that when you're going to these different activities, there are warnings that take place. And taking action. So as in the facility, so some disruptions can escalate to the point of immediate action required. The degree to which the action is required depends on the disruption and the severity. And these actions are 3 basic steps: assess, attend, and refer. Okay, so remember the assess, attend, and refer. Those are 3 things I might ask you about in the future. Law enforcement, some disruptions can be anticipated because of large crowds, social tension, high intensity, or skill level of the participant. So the Vancouver Stanley Cup riot, which we mentioned. In these instances, proactive managers may have security guards or police at the facility to assist. The use of law enforcement should not be excessive. However, too much police presence can have the opposite outcome where desired. So there is sort of that level of having enough police present and having too much. I was just wondering if, if you're having the 7th game of a Stanley Cup final, that maybe Vancouver should have beefed up the police presence outside the arena, thinking that if they won or if they lost, there'd be some sort of partying or upset people going through the streets of Vancouver. So they should have possibly anticipated that. So medical assistance, delivery of some recreation products can create situations that require responses. So standard first aid, CPR, what did I write? My goodness, I can't remember what my personal, why can't I remember that? Sorry, I'm getting a gap here. I'm going to have to remember what that is, unless someone can remind me what I have made my notes on and don't remember. Kind of embarrassing. What the heck? I'm going to have to figure that out. Sorry, guys. I got a little lost there. Okay. Medical, personal. Some example of personal medical use in the recreation facility environments are trainers, paramedics, nurses, emergency medical trainers, and doctors. Okay. And so evacuation. This is something that also happened. I have an example of being at a varsity game in Barrie, and the opposing team, it was a basketball game. We had fans. They brought up a fan bus, and after the game, they lost. We won. The Georgian team won. The other team lost. A fan from the losing team went up to our coach and sort of flashed them. I have a knife. this is not good. So this was kind of all done secretly. Like no one really knew what was going on because people kind of go all over the floor at the end of the game. You know, there's people are going over to say, hey, good game, this sort of thing, or too bad, you know, we'll win next game sort of thing, or whatever it is, or say hi to their kids or whatever. But that was, something that did happen, and we kind of only knew about it after the fact because there was no injury or anything that took place. The person was just showing them that I have a knife and, I'm pretty upset and I'll see you outside sort of thing. So that was, they kind of got away, and I believe we contacted the visiting team and notified them of who we thought it was. And good thing is we did have cameras too, so we could identify the person. But evacuation, you need to know how you can evacuate a facility if you do need to. It's not saying that you're going to be at a game where there's a earthquake or something like that, but if there is a power outage, what do you do at a power outage? That power outages happen all the time. I know last night I was going to hockey and going down Duckworth Street, and about 3 of the lights, 3 or 4 traffic lights were out, and there's a blackout because of the snow that took place. If you're in a facility, what do? Do you get people out? Do you allow them to stay in? Is there a time period? What we always had was a 15-minute window. So we have emergency lighting, so you could see what was going on. But at 15 minutes, the emergency lighting starts to die or get weaker because the battery packs only last for a certain amount of time in emergency lighting. So what we would do is, assess the information, stop the play, first of all, because you want to make sure that the players are safe. That sort of thing has to happen as well. So, evacuation plan needs to be in place. How to get people out safely. Is there a coat check where they had to get their coats, or do they take their coats with them? Are they okay to go out? Are you going to restart once the game, once the power comes back on? So there's different things you have to think about, but keeping the evacuation plan is in there to keep your fans, your participants, if you're in a fitness center, keeping people safe. So even though there's windows, power outages, if it's during the day and you're in a fitness center, there's been times where we have said that, we don't have to evacuate or leave the building on a power outage because you can still see where you are. So you can stay here. And if there is sufficient lighting, on the Aurelia campus in the fitness center, there's lots of windows, and if there's lots of windows, people can still use the non-electric machines. But most of the stuff, people could have been injured too because power goes out, you're on a treadmill. I don't know if that's ever happened to you before, but there's an abrupt stop that takes place. So you have to be prepared for those sort of things and assess the situation. But the components are assess for inquiry, general information, and action steps. Assessment or injury. So, what is assessment? What do you need? Do you need fire, police, EMS? Evacuation plan should know the relationship and coordination with all local emergency services. And if you've ever called 911, the first thing they say, fire, police, medical is what they ask you, so you know where to direct the call. So that is one of the first questions that you will hear, if not the first question. But a fire plan, whenever you go into these public buildings, you've never probably noticed it, but each of these public buildings has a small little box on it, and it says FD, Fire Department. Now, I challenge you to look for this when you go into these public buildings. Could be a mall, could be an athletic facility, could be a multi-use facility, but there will be a small box with it says FD on it, and it is a key in there to get them into any doors in the building, so they can go through any doors if they need to. And there'll also be a fire or emergency plan inside the building that should be in a box. It should say all the information, could be the floor layouts of the building and so on, that that when they go into a fire department goes into a building. Okay? Next time, have a look next time you go into a Georgian College building. General information. Any evacuation plan should be in writing and placed highly visible and accessible location where facility personnel can locate it in an emergency situation, like at the front doors. You'll notice that at malls and that sort of thing. The evacuation plan should state general information identifying the user's core product extension, mission, goals, objectives. We have the floor plan and so on. Emergency and evacuation plan should include specific policy statement. This is information that you're training your staff on. Safety of users during the emergency. It should also have full descriptions of the facility, making reference to architectural drawings, space capacities. They'll have where's the sprinkler system, if it, that sort of thing. If they need to shut it off, reset the alarms, that sort of thing. They need to know all that information in this information when the information that a fire department gains when they enter into a building. The action steps and evacuation plan should be any forms or reports necessary to assist with the revision or improvements to the plan. So after this happens, when at Georgian and many other post-secondary institutes, when they first initialized and put into place lockdown procedures. So lockdown, if there has been, a possible, a threat, and this, as we talked about the terrorist threats earlier today, if this sort of threat has been, active shooters on campus, that sort of thing, from when the lockdown started about, I'd say 10 years ago or so, I can't remember exact year it was, but I'm thinking about 10 or so years, maybe a few more than 10. That the process that took place then to now has been quite different. So it used to be just hide and hide everywhere, lock your door and hide. Now it is, get out if you can, and get out off campus. So get in your vehicle, take off, get out of there, and it's safe. So there's a run, hide, and fight now. Excuse me. Now, before it used to just be hide. So there has, that sort of thing take place. There also used to have an auditory message. They had lights that went off, like lockdown in process and so on. So it has, things have taken place or changed in the last 10 years on the way they have assessed it and made it more safe for people. So they've done this by doing many sort of drills, so lockdown drills. If you're on campus, they would happen each semester, once a semester, to make sure people are aware of the process and what is to happen during a lockdown. Okay, so that's my last slide for today. It's 9:37, and I am not going to move on to a different chapter today. Next week, we are going to talk about chapter 16, which is in playgrounds, parks, and aquatic facilities. I believe we're talking about next week. And okay, so that's what we have for today. And I'm going to stop the recording now, but I will stay online until everyone's left the class. So it's good talking with everyone today. And remember, assignment 3 is due on Friday, 11:59. Okay.